Hello and welcome to another one of these ADD videos. Today we're going to be looking at some basic examples of conversions. So let's look at this first problem here. The question states, how many minutes are there in 3,400 seconds? Oop, forgot the 3. And the target is minutes. So what we want to do is we want to start out always with what we're given in the numerator of a fraction. Since it's just seconds and not meters per second, there's no denominator or anything like that. And we want the units of what we're given. In this case, seconds is going to go on the bottom, and then the units of what we desire goes on top. In this case, minutes. So there's the units of what we're given right there, and what we're given. And we have this conversion factor right here. And notice that the seconds will cancel and we will be left with minutes only. And this gives you 56.6 repeating sixes. And because there's only 2 sig figs here in what was given, because there's no decimal point, trailing zeros are not significant, then we have to round it to 2 sig figs in our answer, which would give us 57 minutes. Okay. The next example, how many micrometers are there in 4 meters? Well, here we're given meters, and our conversion factor needs to look like this. It needs to have meters on the bottom and micrometers on top. And if we can put a 1 on the larger unit, then you can avoid dealing with negative exponents. And when you're first doing these, I recommend avoiding dealing with negative exponents because it'll just trip you up a little bit. But once you get familiar with it, feel free to do it either way. But just for my own personal benefit, I'll write down micrometers and meters here, ask myself which one's bigger, and if I go to the chart, if I'm not familiar with what's going on, I see that micros tend to the -6 and meter would be the standard unit. There's no prefix for it, so it would be the larger quantity or unit of measure. So when we're dealing with our conversion, we put a 1, sorry, getting a text message there. We put a 1 on the larger unit of measure, and then at that point we put 1 times 10 to the positive 6 micrometers. Notice that it's a positive 6. Even though the table said 10 to the -6, you make that a positive if you make the 1 the larger measure. Think of it this way. There should be a lot of micrometers in 1 meter because micrometers are smaller than meters. If I put a -6 there, that would not imply that there's a lot. That would mean there's tiny amount, meaning micrometers is bigger, which is not the case. So because m is bigger than micro m, then we put a 1 in front of the m, and then we can avoid negative exponents and then multiply, and you get 4 times 10 to the 6 micrometers. Let's see, the next one is intermediate, so I'm going to save that for the next video. I've got a few of these written up for you already that we're going to do. So let's look here. We want to take 2 days and convert that into seconds. So what you want to do in that scenario is start out with what you're given. So we got 2 days, and then we're going to multiply with the conversion factor. Well, what's the conversion factor? Well, we want first to go to hours, I guess. Most people would take the leap to hours and not minutes. So we know that which one of these is larger. Sorry about that. We have days larger, so we put 1 day there, and there's 24 hours in 1 day. So in essence, this is a 1, and the days will cancel, and we've just converted that measure into hours. And then if we do it again, we have 1 hour is 60 minutes, or if those of you that knew that 1 hour had 3,600 seconds, that's fine. Could have done that as well. I forgot the unit of measure there. And then here, the final step would be, oops, that should have been minutes, sorry. And then we have 1 minute is 60 seconds. Okay, so if you were to multiply that, and you don't want to use your mouse to multiply it, I'm going to pick up my mouse. Pulling up my calculator now, sorry. So let's try it again from the top. We got 2 times 24 times 3,600. That's a lot of seconds. So we get 172,800 seconds. So here we don't really have to worry about sig figs because it's an exact conversion that I wanted. So here I want 34 yards into inches. So I would do the same concept, start out with the units that you're given. Sometimes I just use this here. So we have 1 yard is the larger measure, and there's 3 feet. And we know that 1 foot has 12 inches. So if I were to take 34 times 36, I get my answer of, let's see what the calculator says, 1,224 inches. All right, hopefully you're starting to get the hang of this. Now let's look at 250 centimeters to meters. So same concept. Coffee machine's beeping at me, telling me that it is no longer heating up my coffee. So I need to go downstairs and review that. We know that there's 1 meter and 100 centimeters. Okay. Again, by using 1 on the larger unit of measure, I can avoid. This would be 1 times 10 to the 2, but if it was up here, it would be 1 times 10 to the negative 2, and this would be a 1. Again, I just don't like negative exponents. So here, when I divide, I get 2.5 meters. Okay, last one. Is this the last one? I think this is the last one. Yes, it is. So we want to go from milliliters to kiloliters. So we got 7,500. Again, the units that you have go on bottom. And if you don't know how many milliliters there are in a kiloliter, you first need to go to the base unit of SI measure, in this case liters, and then go to kiloliters. So we know that there's 1,000, or 1 times 10 to the third, if you want to use that notation, and 1 liter. And then there's, if we're looking at kiloliters versus liters, the kiloliters is larger. So we put 1 times 10 to the third, or 1,000 down here. Okay, so if we were to take 7,500 and divide it by 1,000, then divide it by 1,000 again, you'd get 7.5 times 10 to the negative 3. Kiloliters. Okay, I hope I've clarified things. This is the beginner video, so make sure you check out the more advanced examples of conversions, because believe me, they're going to get a lot harder than those, but not much harder. I just don't want you to freak out if you see something that's not basic like this, okay? So practice, practice, practice as always. Thank you and have a nice day.